And welcome to another edition of the Big Nick Energy Podcast. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Pods, and Podbean. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, join our Facebook group, and join our chalkboard. We're over 120 members now. Once we just about double that, we get to 250, we're going to do another giveaway. I have a super special guest today. He has one of the best names on social media for both Twitter and Instagram. Geoff Campbell at Geoff Boyardee, spelled GEOFF_BOY_ARDDEE. Geoff, how you doing, man?
Joe, thank you. Awesome intro. I appreciate that. I'm doing great, man. Besides the Randall news, I'm sure we'll get into it. It's been great to watch the Knicks play this year. Been great to cover them a little bit for Knicks fan TV, and it just feels like they're must-see TV every night. So life is good as a Knicks fan right now.
You still doing stuff for Daily Knicks, or you just do KFTV now?
Well, it's just KFTV right now.
Nice. I mean, dude, KFTV, you get to do it basically like 2, 3 nights a week if you always want to go on there. So that's
Yeah.
the real joy. You already mentioned it. The news did come out, starting with Shams and then 300 other people immediately afterwards. Julius Randle sprained right ankle last night, landing on Bam, getting a rebound in the second quarter. He's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. I didn't see the actual grade of the sprain, but I mean, I know you're a psychologist. We're not doctors per se, so I don't know how much you know about sprained ankles, but just the initial reaction to the news, him being out 2 weeks, at least like he's going to be reevaluated 2 weeks from today is April 13th. Happy birthday to my fiance that day. But that's 2 days before the playoffs start. The Knicks magic number is 2, inevitably 1 to avoid the plan. So at least we don't have to worry about that. But just your initial thought when you saw the landing, him grimacing afterwards, and then what do you think will happen for the next, at least the last 5 regular season games?
I think the biggest thing that scares you is just he really couldn't put any weight on it. Randall is not the type of guy to play up injuries or any type of hurt. He's a guy that prides himself on being available every game. So I think when you see him sustain an injury like this, you have to take it seriously. The only thing I can hope for is that the Knicks are being a little bit cautious with their timetable. They know how important he is to the team. So they're looking at these last 2 weeks. They feel confident about their playoff position and they want to say, listen, we're just going to sit him. We want him to be fully ready for the playoffs. But if that's not the case, we got to be worried. I mean, his production is really irreplaceable. His performance has been amazing this year, and it'll be really interesting to see how Tibbs works these lineups for the last 2 weeks of the regular season.
I posted I'm glad you mentioned the lineup thing. I posted a poll for the Big Nick Energy Twitter today asking what people thought would be Tibbs's move for the last 5 games at least, whether we just stick with Obi and do an 8-man rotation, whether this means Deuce gets minutes and then RJ and or Hart are the backup 4, whether we give Fournier burn somehow. That was obviously the lowest voted for obvious reasons. Or if Sims just ends up being the backup 4 and we play Obi the majority of the time. What would you, at least for the regular season, not the postseason, what do you expect to be the potential rotation for the next 5 games?
I would like to see RJ slide to the 4 and Hart be inserted into the lineup. I think that would make the most sense. I think you still have a level of continuity there. Those are guys that have played meaningful minutes together. I love the backcourt of I really do like Grimes and Brunson or even Quickly if he's in there if Brunson, sustains another injury or whatever it is. I think Hart, regardless of what lineup he's in, he's going to impact from a winning standpoint. Um, I just the tough part about Obi and I'm a guy that campaigned for the Knicks to draft Obi. That draft was one of the first that I covered really closely, and I know a lot of people were really down on Obi, and I liked the progression he's made in his years since he's been in the NBA. But I just feel like from an overall impact defensive standpoint, I really do feel like his minutes are best suited at a 10 to 15 minute spurt, see if his shot is good. He can impact the game some other ways as well, but I think giving him 20, 25 minutes. I know there's going to be fans out there that say, well, look at last year when they kind of sat Randall a little bit and he started playing more towards the end of the year. But those were games where we didn't have a lot on the line and there wasn't a lot of stress or pressure in there. I can't really see Obi producing in that same way. So I would really hope to see RJ slide to the 4, and then they put Hart in the starting lineup.
I wouldn't be against that at all. The I do have a small thing. I wonder if Obi will actually, because I see the same thing you do. A lot of us do. Even the biggest pro Obi fans, they notice that he's not the best on defense, whether he misses a rotation or for someone as like, it seems like jacked up strong as he is, like top heavy strong, he doesn't box out well, which has always been a problem for someone to look like they have broad shoulders and they can leap out of the gym to not remember the most important aspect of put a body on a guy. And I think that's what we all get. It's not even that his initial defense will be bad all the time. Like he gets back cut. I mean, everyone gets back cut sooner or later, but like even when he like tries to jump up and make a block on a guy, and he'll often get a block out of it because he can jump so high. He doesn't recover, he doesn't box out, and that's where the same thing that we take advantage of as a team, like offensive rebounds, second chance points, he gives up as a defender. If you So we've seen a Hart on the team for about 20 games now, and Hart's known to do this throughout his time in the NBA so far. It's kind of funny. He's on his third, fourth team. He can play bigger than his size, right? He's 6'4", but he plays like he's 6'8". He rebounds. He's a great defender on ball. He does get sometimes, I feel like, out of position from a bigger guy standpoint. Like if he gets pinned down, if the guy is over his head trying to get like a lob inside, there is nothing Josh Hart can really do. And I do wonder if Obi will be able to actually take advantage of the opportunity. Because much like even when Grimes doesn't have it, or even when we saw Elfrid Payton start 3 years ago, like Tibbs will start with his starting lineup that he has set, and he likes his bench guys being bench guys. So I think we are going to see Obi at least starting these games. And then if it works, if he ends up closing, that's where we'll really decide how he's managing in game and how Obi does within the situation. How often do you think there's a chance that Obi does actually prove his worth on the defensive end? Because I don't think either one of us really has an issue with him scoring. He has a 35-point game in his career, the 42-point game. They were actually back-to-back last year. He averaged 20 points in the games Randle didn't play last year, which included a 5-point outing the first time. It's just defensively that we're worried about. How often do you think Obi will be actually make it worthwhile on that end for him to get closing minutes? Not over Hart. I think Hart will close at the 3 no matter what, at least. But whether it's like IQ, Hart, Obi, whatever happens, like how often do you think Obi will be able to actually close in any of these games, and how would it get there?
I would be surprised, honestly, if I saw that. I actually think in the years since he's been drafted, I do think he's made improvements defensively. Like I think we saw in his first 2 years, he was a pretty solid help defender. Um, like you said, he's narrow in his hips and he does get pushed around. I think sometimes he gets even pushed off his spot by guys that are smaller than him, which is a little bit tough.
I think it goes to the top heavy body standpoint.
Yeah,
Like it seems like his arms are so much bigger than his legs somehow.
I think that's a big part of it. But interestingly enough, like I don't get me wrong, like I'm worried defensively, but honestly, offensively, I do worry a little bit if the game is not in transition, how he's going to make his mark in a half court offense, especially if his shot is not falling. I will say that in the last like 2, 3 weeks or so, I've seen a little bit of creation from him. There's every now and then he'll make a move, he'll try a Euro step here or a drive to the basket. Sometimes I feel like unless his drives are on a straight line, he's going to have a really hard time finishing in traffic or elevating to get his shot off. But I actually worry a little bit more offensively if he were to get clutch and crunch time minutes, how he's going to fit into their kind of offensive system. Now, if they ran more pick and roll with Obi as the main guy coming up, I wouldn't worry about that much because that's what they played at Dayton, and
Yep.
he did very well. He flourished in that system. But the Knicks are not really going to do that, especially if Mitch or Hartenstein are on the floor. Obi's going to be set out more on the wing. He's going to run baseline, and he's going to have to kind of get his opportunities and touches that way. So I think I would be surprised if Tibbs trusted him in crunch time.
Do you think there's any way that they would start operating? Because IQ does like running pick and roll with Obi. They've done it for years now, being on the team together since the same draft. Do you think there's any chance that when he's out there with Mitch or Hartenstein, that they run more like horn sets or Spain pick and rolls where they have two screeners involved, just like make
They
him be more useful?
they should. They really should. Like my thing is now that we know that Randall's going to be out for 2 weeks, I know we need to win games. So Tibbs,
At least one
yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah. Tibbs, I know Tibbs might feel nervous about experimenting, but at the end of the day, I think you're going to have to if you want to get the best out of the current roster without Randall. So I think that does mean um, if Obi's going to be out there, featuring him more in the pick and roll and whatnot. I don't know that that'll happen, but like you said, it has happened and there's been some positivity with it, so they should at least go to it at some point.
I hope we see it one way or another, at least for these 5 games. Ideally, obviously, Randall comes back before the postseason, but just to even find out we have other tools to use, it will benefit greatly whether we're going against Cleveland or Philly.
For
Um,
sure.
I know you mentioned IQ. That was actually the next thing I want to bring up. We had talked about Randall and Obi. Obviously, that's like more of the downward thing. Let's bring it back up though. We won 2 in a row. This team almost refuses to do what the Hawks do, which is win one, lose one. They haven't done that in 2 months, oddly enough. They always win at least two and lose at least 2 in a row. The 2 games they won in a row back to back against Houston and at Miami, or against Houston and Miami, both at home. IQ ended up being the catalyst for both of those games. Houston kind of a walking bucket defensively at this point. You just can score on them. They're young. I'm not gonna say they packed it in. They're all trying. Like they're guys that want to get better and improve, but they're a tanking team. Like we scored 131 points and it didn't even look like we actually tried that hard. And IQ made 77% of his shots to get into really rarefied air. I loved seeing those lists to see what he did. Between that and the Miami game, this man's really gone off. Like it's absolutely amazing and not unbelievable. I know a lot of fans, myself included, saw that IQ could do this, but what do you think he's been able to learn and or acquire this year specifically from a skill set, whether it's through watching and learning from Jalen Brunson, whether it's from Johnnie Bryant and Tibbs just getting him to do more and more offensively? How much do you think the isometric and not even the pick and roll? I think we both said that they should do more pick and roll, but his ISO game has just gotten so much better. He's always had a decent first step, but he wasn't able to cross guys up as much. And it's just improved dramatically, especially since the new year. And he seems like he's going to actually win 6 man out of the year out of all of this. What has impressed you most with IQ in the past week and then the past, I would say, 4 months overall?
I would say, honestly, I would say it starts with kind of like the foundation of this team. I know Tibbs gets a lot of flack. Some of it is rightfully deserved. I'm kind of a Tibbs guy, so I end up defending him on Twitter quite a bit here and there. But what I do think,
You guys are winning more and more arguments, I must say. As a not Tibbs guy, I'm running out of things to say.
I do think that Tibbs has established a foundation with this team that if there are certain players that approach the game in a way that he appreciates, puts in a certain amount of effort, whether it's like film room or just trying to improve their individual skill set, he entrusts them, whether that trust looks like or manifests itself in more minutes on the court, more minutes in the clutch, different role, increased role in the offense, whatever it is. So I'm kind of taking a roundabout way to answer the question, but that foundation to me makes the coach trust you more. So when the coach trusts you more, now your confidence improves. Because what impresses me the most about Quickley is his aggressiveness. He's been really aggressive, whether his shot has fallen or not. Joe, remember in the beginning of the season, he was struggling a little bit.
Yeah,
Remember, there's a lot of fans that'll like to point out, oh, listen, this guy's just chucking up threes. There were people online that were saying he's not passing to Cam Reddish or RJ or whatever it is. But
I do
the
remember
thing is,
those.
Quickly has a very, I would say, keen idea of what he wants to do on a basketball court. And his confidence never wavered. He stayed with his game. Tibbs trusts him. And you can see, I think his drives are what has improved the most, whether it's the efficiency in the floater, getting to the rim, finishing through contact, even that little
The little
kind of
12-foot fadeaway he does now, he added this
fadeaway.
year, is unbelievable.
Joe, I was just gonna say that. Like to me, that is such a huge piece of his game that we didn't necessarily see before.
Yeah.
But I also want to talk about his defense too, because everything is tied together. This guy is our best perimeter defender. You read that Fred Katz article where it talked about him being our Draymond, calling out the other team's
Yep.
plays and their sets. This guy has improved so much as a basketball player that he has license to do a lot more offensively than maybe other people would because of his just overall improvement and how the coach trusts him. So as a result, of course, I give all of this credit to Immanuel Quickley because he's the player, he's put in the work. But I do think the coaching staff around him, of course, Johnnie Bryant, but definitely Tibbs as well, has given him this reign to be the version of himself that's helping us win.
Do you think that there's anything that Brunson might have actually taught him in the past like year or so? Because Brunson's footwork inside is absolutely unbelievable, and I think that might be where IQ is finishing, and also that little fadeaway he does. Might it literally seems like it's from the Jalen Brunson playbook.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? It's funny. I'll go back to this video of players learning from players. You know, Melo was never on the team when Julius Randle was, but I'm sure a lot of fans do remember that Chris Brickley video when I think Randle was in the gym and he's learning, basically um, these different, mid-range jump shots and the footwork to get your jump shot off from Melo.
The jab step, yeah.
Jab step. And now we see Randle incorporating that almost on a nightly basis. So I'm sure Quickly learned from Brunson because it's something that he's really adept at and scores, very efficiently using those types of moves.
I actually think that also RJ Barrett probably learned it from Brunson as well. And I know RJ had a bad first half specifically yesterday. He helped in the fourth quarter. I feel like I've actually been going more defending RJ as much as you probably have had to defend Tibbs in the past, because when RJ does bad, it's so noticeable. And like the most common of people can obviously see it. It's like when you're watching basketball, basketball is inherently easier to learn and understand than other sports because it's like the whole point of the game is to put the ball in the hoop. No matter what you do, no matter how you get there, the point is to put the ball in the hoop as your team. And RJ is getting to the spots that he wants to get. He's getting past guys more than he did in the past. And I think a lot of that also seems like it's like Jalen Brunson and Johnnie Bryant esque. And his finishing just is not where we need it to be. I know you saw the game last night and you've been seeing it, and RJ seems like he's been going up and down the same way he always has. Do you see the same thing with his footwork? Does it look like he's getting better at everything except for putting the ball in the hoop, or is it just me?
No, I would agree with a lot of what you said. And, you know, I know the strong RJ defenders out there are gonna say, he's still really young, there's time, but I do worry about his long-term fit with this team. If he's not doing something offensively at a, I don't want to say elite level, but a bit more above average than what we can expect. I do like when he drives more as opposed to, kind of waiting around the 3-point line. I know Tibbs
100%.
said something about that as well too, but it's just not where it needs to be. And I feel bad because I don't think it's really due to his fault. He seems like a kid that puts in the work. It's probably not easy for him to try and figure out a role that is supplementary to Brunson and Randle when he probably sees himself as, a 20-25 point scorer a night, and running maybe a little bit more of the offense with a chance to play make. But it's just not 100% working. It doesn't really hurt the offense, but like you said, when it's bad, it's really noticeable. And the sad part is it's his defense that's taken a step back.
Yeah.
That's the part that's been really hard to watch. And those parts seem like it's almost more effort based than, oh, he just got cooked by Doncic or someone like that. Like there are times where we see him give up baseline or you see him get blown by, and it's just like that didn't need to happen. Like there was an angle that you could have taken there, or getting your hand in a passing lane, just something simple that just didn't happen for whatever reason. So it's hard to watch RJ now, know the contract that we signed him to, and see a really strong suited role for him in a team that is winning consistently going forward. So I have a hard time with RJ. I'm really rooting for him. I want him to turn it around and be that guy for us. But if you asked me right now, I would say the answer is probably no on that.
Yeah, there's a chance, if not even might become a probability in the next offseason that he ends up becoming the odd man out after the contract, not even after the contract, like after they signed him to this contract.
Yeah.
Especially with wanting to keep IQ now, they want to extend Josh Hart. The thing that sucks about what happens with RJ and watching him on the court, especially on the defensive end, like you said, like giving up baseline sometimes, like having a chance to put his hand in the cookie jar or having a chance to put his hand in passing lanes and just getting caught, falling for a foul, giving the guy like giving up the baseline, letting the guy get to the middle. You notice it so much more because he's out there with Grimes, IQ, and Hart. Like you saw it a little bit when it was just Grimes and IQ, or then McBride. But the thing is, McBride, because of his size, can still get like burnt in certain situations. But like Grimes and IQ specifically, having the both of them and Hart out there, and then having RJ out there, not at the same time. Because last night, I think all four of them being out there actually helped him because he's like, I got to do what these guys are doing because, or else it's going to be noticeable that I'm messing up. But when he's on the bench and then he comes in for one of them, and one of them was not giving up a lot of points or a lot of drives to the guy, and then they are, you just notice it so much more, and that's where he really runs into the problem, I feel like. I wanted to move on to Hartenstein real quick before we talk about the potential matchups or resting players, I mean, because it hasn't seemed like recently, like Mitch came back from his injury about a month ago now, and he started out with 4 straight doubles, and you were like, this is the blockiness monster. This is who we keep wanting to see on a consistent basis. And he had the thing on social media. We don't even need him to score. We have plenty of scorers and people that put the ball in the basket on the team. But he's like, it almost seems like he's not doing as much on the defensive end. He's still getting a bunch of rebounds. He boxes out well, but we have a bunch of guys that are on the perimeter, and we actually don't need Mitch to do as many Mitch things now, literally with the 3 guys we've been talking about. And Hartenstein seems like he's actually been meshing more with that unit. And last night we literally closed, like we didn't close with Brunson. Brunson, it seems like told Tibbs actually like let them cook. We ended up winning the quarter 25-16, won the quarter by 9, won the game by 9, which helped out a lot. But IQ, it was IQ, Grimes, Hart, RJ, and Hartenstein. And how often do you think we're going to keep seeing Hartenstein actually close out some of these games? And what can Mitch do to get back to where we want him to be from a defensive anchor standpoint? Or even do we need that anymore?
I think we will see a little bit more of Hartenstein. It surprises me, honestly. I'm sure you remember in the beginning of the year, he was struggling. Fans were calling for his name. Everyone thought this was not a great signing. And everyone thought he was kind of misplaced because he was given the opportunity in LA to be more of a creator, a really good passer in the pinch post, a la kind of like Joakim Noah,
Yep.
some of those Bulls teams. And that's why people thought he might fit with Tibbs well.
Talk
But
about a guy that had an injury that you never even heard of or knew, because the Achilles thing didn't come out until like he started doing well again. Like good for him for never even
yeah,
giving it up.
yeah, but his redemption story, Hartenstein's, was really impressive for me. I feel like um you just see his energy, man. Like I this guy had a block. I forget what game it was, but he was like waving his hand and talking shit. I was like, oh, okay, like
I
really
think he did it
impressed.
during the Orlando game before we ended up
It might
losing.
it might have been the Orlando game. But really impressed with him and his impact on winning. I think he's figured out a way to mesh well with the guys that he's on the court with, regardless of who's on the court. So I do think we'll see more of him. With Mitch, man, I'm not gonna lie. I don't agree with the way that Mitch chooses to air his grievances. However, I do feel for him in some sense. The only reason I say that, and listen, I'm not trying to sell fool's gold here. Mitch is very limited offensively. And I truly believe there is a wide gap between what he thinks he can do on a basketball court on the offensive side and what the team and probably most fans thinks he can do. And, I you'd love to see some type of middle ground there, but I do feel him when he's kind of like, yeah, I'm running up and down there for cardio because I'll watch games and I see lobs that they're not hitting.
Yeah.
And I see whether it's IQ or Brunson, and I'm sure they're looking for him. But I remember even after he's made his comments, I said, all right, let me take these next two games and really see what are people really missing Mitch? And honestly, sometimes they are. And the thing is this, there's been other players, Hall of Fame players, that have said from a philosophical standpoint, if a guy makes a good defensive play, sometimes you got to feed him just
You
to
got to
keep
reward him
him.
once in a while.
Yeah, you got to reward him just to keep him going on that other end. Because if you have the guy and you just tell him just stand under the basket, box everyone out, because Mitch is not. Let's keep it real too. Like Mitch is not just getting rebounds; he's fighting through two,
It's like
sometimes
three
three
on one, and
people.
he's tipping the ball
Right.
to himself like
He's
volleyball.
tipping the ball to himself. He's got to grab it, keep it high so it doesn't get swatted out, find the outlet, and then run down on the offensive side when maybe Brunson has already gone for a move and whatever. And again, he has a role to play on this team. He's really good at it. And I think despite, Hartenstein's um, kind of rise here, I still think Mitch is really, really important to this team. And I think if we're going to do anything in the playoffs, I think he still has to be that really strong defensive anchor that we know he can be.
What is the percentage, or how would you think the minutes is going to be distributed? Assume him and Hartenstein literally split the 48 first round of the postseason. Do you think it's close to 24-24? Do you think it ends up like going more to like the 28-20 that it was earlier in the year when Mitch was out playing Hartenstein? Like, if you were just crystal ball it right now, what would you
Yeah,
predict?
I would say I would hope. I think if our team is playing at the best possible, I think it should be closer to 28-20. But, that really depends on Hartenstein and that depends on Mitch. If Hartenstein keeps playing the way he's been playing and Mitch keeps playing the way that he's been playing, you might see a little bit of a closer distribution.
Awesome. I think I want to honestly end up seeing 24-24, especially if we get the Cavs, it's going to be hard, but a lot of times they ended up having Jared Allen not play towards the end of the game and having Mobley close. And I think in those situations, it might be worth having Hartenstein out there to put more pressure on him offensively. But if Jared Allen's out there, I would rather Mitch and him just bang as much as humanly possible.
I think that's a really good point. Honestly, I mean, Mobley is not going to be down there like Allen is, and you're going to need somebody who maybe has a little bit more of a closeout versatility than Mitch does. And Mitch tries. I mean, it's just difficult for him.
Yeah, 100%. It absolutely is. And I feel like Mitch is can be better on the perimeter when you just look at straight stats because he gets like the corner three blocks once in a while from 12
Yeah,
feet away, which is
yeah,
absolutely unbelievable. And Hartenstein won't do that. But Hartenstein, just by being a wider, bigger body, he's harder to get around. Which, if we see Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, that would obviously be an issue.
yeah,
Geoff, I wanted to close out with the idea of resting the guys versus not resting the guys for the last 5 days. And I'm not going to lie, Julius Randle already being out for these 5 games kind of puts a major damper on even this as a topic. But we've seen Brunson have a couple of different injury problems in the past 2 or 3 weeks. He's missed 3 or 4 games. Do you think there's a chance that they try to limit his minutes? Is he going to miss 1 or 2 of these games? Like after Cleveland, who I personally wouldn't even want us to put a lot of stuff on tape anymore. We're more likely than not. I think it's over 80% that we play Cleveland in the first round right now. Between Washington, the two Indy games in New Orleans, I feel like we'd be able to go at least 2-2, even without Brunson out there. But what is your opinion on the idea of resting him or anyone else on the team? What would you want the minute distribution to be? And well, I'll just let you go from there.
yeah. I definitely think it should be strategic. The only issue I see, I just don't know how the Knicks as a franchise look at this because Tibbs,
We have years of
Randall.
history of knowing how Tibbs looks at
Right,
it.
exactly. So Randall has been top three in minutes played for quite some time, especially since he's been here, since he's been with Tibbs, he's been up there. And I don't see I would love for the Knicks to look at it this way. I would love for them to look at every game and try and see strategically where you can give Brunson either, 5, 10 minutes here, Grimes, IQ, definitely Mitch, because we've seen this year, when he's fully out, what it does to our team. And I would like to see strategically how they can do that, at least in 2 out of the 4 games, if not even all 4 games. And of course, that's going to depend on the score. That's going to depend on the standings. But I would like for them to have a plan. I would like for them all to sit down, the front office and the coaching staff, and to say, listen, we have some guys that are banged up. We've seen Brunson miss some games down the stretch. Julius is not playing for the last 2 weeks. We have to make sure that this doesn't get worse, and we have to figure out where we can get guys to rest 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, if not even sit for a whole game. I mean, if we have the 5th seed wrapped up by whatever it is, and there's 2 games left, you definitely have to look at sitting one, if at least not more than one player. And this is where I would definitely criticize Tibbs, and I think it would be fair, because if he's looking to just say, well, listen, we need rhythm, and we if we have a game, we're playing guys. I think that's short-sighted, especially with the history of this team and the way they've just been logging minutes this year. I totally understand the rationale between for wanting to be hot and wanting to have continuity and playing your guys together. But at the end of the day, we're going to have a long series with whoever we play, and you need people to be at their best, in their best shape.
I think you bring up a good point with he'll say that some of them need to actually be or stay in rhythm. And honestly, I think it actually can go both ways, that the guys that we would imagine need to be in rhythm, RJ, Grimes, Hart. I mean, Hart really does what he does regardless of what's happening out there. But between the three of them, IQ, Hartenstein, since his Achilles, he's actually been good on injury history, knock on wood. And then we can give both Sims and McBride more minutes, obviously. Outside of Brunson and Mitch, I think most of them are relatively durable. Like they
Yeah,
haven't, it's literally just been Hartenstein with the Achilles, and he didn't even miss time for it. He just struggled. And
right.
Grimes had the foot problem in October, and then has he missed a game since like mid-November? It's like he's played every single game. So I think he can go both ways. I 100% would, ideally, out of these last 5 games, I want Brunson to play at most 3. And I mean like 3 isn't like 2.5. Like he missed, like if it
Yeah,
was up to me, it'd be every other game. Like he misses Cleveland, plays Washington, misses Indy, plays New Orleans, misses Indy again. And ideally, if we go 2 and 3 out of these last 3 games, we have the five seed all but locked up anyway. So, and then like you said with Mitch, he has a lot that goes on with his mind and with his body, and he has been known to get like leg problems here, a back problem here, and stuff like that. And I love Jericho Sims. I think Jericho Sims will actually be a useful NBA player for like literally 10 years, just based on height and what Tibbs and Bryant have done for him from learning a defensive standpoint and actually being able to use it. And oddly enough, Sims seems like a lot of times he's our best perimeter defender between him and Mitch and Hartenstein. We don't use him that much, obviously, because he doesn't do a lot of the other things as well. But he's one of the best rebounders for rebound rate. When you look at all the graphs and stuff, he just doesn't play a lot. He's a good perimeter defender. He's not ready yet to be the guy that would be in the postseason if Mitch got hurt and we're forced to play Hartenstein and Sims. I just wouldn't want to see that. So I agree with you. I think Brunson and Mitch should get, I would say, 2.5 games each if possible, and then let the other guys just keep doing what they're doing. Not for 38 minutes a game, though. I just want to throw
no,
that there. We don't need IQ and RJ to play 38 minutes right now.
yeah.
But yeah, that's basically how I feel about that. Geoff, I'll let you go. Just one more thing. Who do you want to play between
Oh,
Cleveland or Philly if it was just 50-50?
Cleveland for sure. I'll say this, just from like an entertainment standpoint. I think there is a lot. I don't think nationally it'll get as much play. It's a national story, but between the fan bases, just knowing what went on last summer regarding the Donovan Mitchell trade saga, the fact that New York kind of hedged, and I still feel like made the right decision. Cleveland obviously went in strong. They get their man to pair with Garland and Mobley for, however many seasons in the future. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how both teams play. But from a Knicks perspective, I like the fact that Cleveland does not rebound the ball well. I think they're 26th in the league right now.
Which, having those two guys back there is kind of crazy.
Yes, yes. But not only that, so their 3-point percentage is decent. I think they're middle of the league, but they don't take a lot of 3-pointers per game. So, for whatever reason, and listen, the Bucks are probably the best team in the league, so of course we don't match up great against them. But teams that I think pose us problems with size. And don't get me wrong, Jared Allen and Mobley do, but pose us problems with size from a rebounding standpoint and can shoot the three. It's really tough for us to do well with them because we have a decent offense, but a lot of our offense is predicated on second chance points. We're a really good rebounding team and a really good offensive rebounding team. So if that's kind of neutralized, I think it's hard for us to get into a full rhythm. So for that reason, I honestly really do like playing Cleveland. I'm not going to downplay them or say I love our chances against Cleveland because at the end of the day, the Cavs have the best player on either roster. And when Donovan Mitchell decides to put a 40 piece or a 50 piece up there, he can.
Yeah.
So they're always going to be favored, especially in the fourth quarter if it's close, because you have that guy. But overall, getting to quarter four, having it being a close game, I like our chances more against Cleveland than Philly.
I have it up right now. They're 25th in rebounding. We're second. We average almost 47 a game. They average just over 41. The crazy thing about that is that both Mobley and Allen average over 9 a game.
Yeah.
Mitchell's
Yeah.
at 4, and then everyone else is like below 3, basically.
But
So
when
it's
we
literally
have,
just 2 guys rebounding.
but our guards, when you have Hart, even IQ has been a really good rebounder for his
Yeah.
size. You know, that's another hallmark of a Tibbs team, gang rebounding. That's always what he said in Chicago. It's never going to be just the bigs' responsibility to do that. It's all 5 players on the team. So I think because the Knicks have kind of taken that mantra, and since he's been here, that's kind of been their MO. But I definitely give us a puncher's chance for sure.
I think it's going to go 7 one way or
Yeah,
another. And I
I
really want
agree.
to see Cleveland at this point. It's like the whole season has just been like scripted, trademark, just to like get to the point that we have Donovan Mitchell go against the Knicks and we have Jalen Brunson potentially one-upping this man again, even though the whole world can see most of the time Donovan Mitchell is a better overall player. Jalen Brunson in the postseason owned him last year, and if he owns him again this year, as New Yorkers, we would all love the crap out of that.
Oh my God, it would be insane. Listen, Twitter would be a mess and all of our accounts would just be absolute nonsense for weeks after that. Dude, from your lips to God's ears, that would be great.
I hope so. Other thing, my lips to God's ears. Imagine if we actually watch IQ and Darius Garland cover each other the whole time, and then
Oh
even
my
though every person in the whole NBA would imagine Darius Garland is leaps and bounds a better player than IQ is still, IQ outplays him, then we have so many other great narratives to cover and go over. I would absolutely love that. More
100%.
so, more so than Brunson destroying Mitchell. I would love IQ managing to one up Garland one way or another.
Yep.
Jeff, thank you so much, man. I always appreciate it. I feel like I should have you on more often. I don't know why this is like a once a year thing.
Hey, dude, I'm always down. You're great. The stuff that you guys are doing at BKE is awesome. So
Thank you,
listen,
man.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
whenever you need a guest, man, I'm sure I'll be able to come on.
Much appreciated. Hey, we're just trying to get to where KFTV and KFS is one way or another, little by little. They just have they're years ahead of us, but each thing is one rung up the ladder.
Yep, I hear that for sure.
Thank you, man. Again, everyone, thank you for listening. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Pods, and Podbean. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Join our Facebook group. Follow me at Joey Landolfa on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Jeff, again, the amazing tag that he has at Jeff Boyardee, GEOFF _BOY _ARDEE. Jeff, let's go Knicks. Randle, get healthy. Brunson, Mitch, don't get hurt. Knock on wood. No one else get hurt, obviously. And Donovan Mitchell, we're coming for you round 1, baby. I don't care if you're 30-8 or 31-8 at home. We are road warriors.
Sorry, let's go.
Let's go, Knicks. Peace.